everybody, welcome back to Psychology Flipped. Of course, as always, it's your cruise director, Mrs. Clemens, and please don't forget to keep calm and study psychology. It's so important. All right, guys, so we're still talking about body and behavior, and again, our animations are various different brains. Why? Because I like brains. I'm a zombie. I like to eat them. All right, so, hey, I just talked about brains, and now I'm showing you brains. Ew, gross. What we have here, picture horse, dog, human, sheep. What, guys, what's the difference? What do you see? Well, Mrs. Clemens, that's my impression of you. Well, you guys might see the brain stems are definitely different, and that's the long part right here. Brain stems are the part that does the basic kind of functions, the breathing, heartbeat kind of stuff. But the thing that we're looking at is the front part here, the frontal lobes. And you can tell, guys, that this is the human brain because we have the biggest frontal lobes. Now, you might be like, Mrs. Clemens, I don't understand. Why are you talking to us about frontal lobes? Well, frontal lobes basically are the things that really kind of make us different from other animals, other species. And so you look here and you see, how little a frontal lobe a squirrel monkey has. My poor little cat Zoe, she doesn't have a lot going on. My poor thing. She's not very analytical. Whereas now you're going in here to the rhesus monkey, the chimp. They've got a lot more, and obviously we have the most. And so and hopefully you guys noticed we haven't written anything down yet in this part. So humans, it's the last thing to develop in the womb, in the rummatum-tum, as I like to call it. So as things kind of move out, you can kind of see as the forebrain is kind of making its way towards the front here. The forebrain is really important to us. And listen, if we were taking AP Psych, or if you're taking a bio class, you talk so much more about the biology of the brain. We're doing a very, 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 very basic kind of study of the brain. So please don't, be like, oh, why are we learning? We're doing very basic. You guys are actually going to watch a video about this guy, Phineas Gage. And the crazy thing with this dude is, how we were talking about in the last video, well, how have people studied the brain? And one of the things is lesions, cutting out different parts. That's not ethical. That's not appropriate to kind of do today. But we have this one example of this guy named Phineas Gage, that this actually kind of lost or damaged part of his frontal lobe, and we got to see what happened with him. So this is back in 1848. He's a 25-year-old guy. He's a foreman, so he's a boss. He's somebody who could be counted on to be responsible. And what was happening was he was, building this railroad, and he's pushing, gunpowder into a hole. The rock and the pole, or the rod, end up hitting, causes a spark, gets an explosion, and this ends up going through his head. And he ends up living. He lives for another 11 years. The thing is, and this is how we, learned about the importance of the frontal lobes. No, do you need the frontal lobes to live? No, you can still, your heart can beat and you can breathe and you can see, maybe not as well, but yeah. But the problem is his behavior changed. He became impulsive, which basically means, he's rash. He's, making decisions without really thinking about them first. He's unreliable, which is weird. He used to be a foreman. He used to be a manager. He's not able to carry out his plans. He's profane, meaning he's cursing, using lewd language, and lacking deference towards others. He's not, he's not compassionate anymore. And then finally, he ended up having some convulsions, basically seizures, and he died in 1860. And so this is an actual picture. He ended up, because he couldn't hold down a job, he ended up going around on the circus circuit. And so here he is holding his fun rod there. And you could tell dude was a pretty good looking guy. Obviously, he's not doing much with his eye anymore. But yeah, this is an example of how important our frontal lobes are to us, to our personality, and to our ability to think and reason. And so, man, I love my animations. So let's talk about some of the functions of the brain. And let's talk specifically about the forebrain. So the forebrain is lit up here. And so the cortex is the Foley stuff. And the limbic system, so see our brain stem, it's the stuff right around our brain stem. And so, yeah, this is really, really important for us to know that it's our thinking, perceiving, and emotions. So he's not acting right afterwards, but he's also not thinking quite right. How much do you love that we're in school? So yeah, this is why he's not the same guy anymore, because his forebrain is impacted. Now we have our midbrain and our hindbrain. So right here's the midbrain, right here, this little part. And so that's the top of the brainstem, and that deals with our sensory pathways. So when we're talking about senses, obviously, we're talking about, well, actually, sight is actually back here, but, smell, hearing, stuff like that. And then the hindbrain is the bottom of the brain stem and the back here. This is our cerebellum, and this is our motor control, basically, like how we move. So like when I was a little girl, my mom said, you have poor motor control, because I had a really hard time tying my shoes or buttoning up things. Our reflexes, and also things like our breathing and our heart rate. And again, if you didn't look at this animation, it's the cutest thing in the entire world. The zombies don't want him because he doesn't have a brain. All right, guys. Well, I hope you enjoyed this second video and my commentary on being a zombie and wanting to eat brains. Tune in next time, and make sure if you have any questions that you ask me.